Okay, I think that we are live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to RW Week Online interviews and panels. I'm Polly Speak, strategic advisor and coordinator at RW Week, and it's my pleasure to host today's conversation with a leader who sits at the intersection of technology, investment, and regional transformation. Our guest is Mohammed Ebrahim Al Fardan, entrepreneur, investor, and chairman of Al Fardan Corporation, and through his work across AI, digital infrastructure, cybersecurity, fintech, venture capital, sovereign technology, Mohammed has become one of the leading voices shaping how the Arab world approaches its digital future. And yeah, today we're going to explore a lot of things: Web3, tokenization, sovereign infrastructure, AI. And Mohammed, thank you so much for joining us and welcome to RW Week.
Thank you very much for having me, and I appreciate it. And I welcome all our audience, and we look forward for very interesting discussion and exchange of thoughts. And I really hope everybody will enjoy it today.
I'm sure. But maybe you can, from your own words, introduce yourself, explain who you are to the audience, your personal journey, how you started the business itself, how you entered Web3, and so on.
Okay, that's interesting question. I'll try to summarize it. I consider myself as uh, uh, as digital economist. I will say. I will not say entrepreneur or visionary or all that. I will say I consider myself as a digital economist who is trying to link the capital to innovation to have the right impact on everything and on everybody. And what I mean by everything and everybody is on the economy, on the on the human capital, on our environment, on our lives, as well as on our future. And that includes, of course, the education, includes the health and the healthcare, which are very important, as well as the technologies that are facing some challenges sometimes, or we are facing some challenges with the technology sometimes. So we try to deploy and make it easy for the users being institutions or individuals, uh, uh, to facilitate whatever they are doing, whether they are government or a business or student uh, at the university or in school or a doctor in the hospital or in the clinic or a patient at home. So we try to facilitate everything, and this is what we call it ecosystem. And we will learn a little more as we go through our discussion today. But this is how I would love to introduce myself today.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that, Mohammed. And I really like that you say digital economist instead of just entrepreneur, because that already sounds more serious, like someone who reads the fine print and you're basically trying to connect money, innovation, real world impact, which is a big and not always clean job, I would say. And today, the digital economy is estimated to be over 15% of global GDP. So you're playing in a space that is already huge and still growing. But yeah, it is good
Absolutely.
to hear someone thinking about the impact on lives and the future, not just a short term profit, like most of the people in Web3, especially. But I know some of the details of your story. You went from working with some of the world's greatest technology firms to becoming a digital economist and still entrepreneur investor. So we would love to take you back to that journey. What was is that first that drew you to Web3 and sovereign technology and made you believe the Arab world deserved its own?
Okay, that's a question that's very close to my heart. and thank you very much for asking this question. Um, I'm passionate about what I do, so that question gets me excited. But I'll try to summarize it. Um, I studied technology, and I was lucky. I always say to study technology in the early days. Today, everybody is talking about technology because you have easy access to information with all the technologies available to everybody at the fingerprint of everybody, whether children or adults. Um, and with the advancement of technology, it became fun today. I started when technology was not fun, and when the family helped me to decide and go for studying technology and I'm talking about before the internet days, by the way. So I'm taking you and the audience backward, a few decades before, whereby when I started my journey, it was before the internet days. Um, before a lot of people knew anything about technology, especially from this part of the world. So this is why I always say I was lucky in many aspects to have the opportunity to study technology in the old days, uh, and, and then I was luckier to achieve one of my very big goals. I will not say dreams because normally dreams are dreams, I will say my goals because when you have a goal, you work very hard to achieve your goal, and this is what I have been doing. So when I was a kid and when I was uh, having this big dream to study technology and to work for one of the giants those, at that time, which was IBM, by the way, which when I say I was lucky to be able to join a company like IBM those days when IBM was an empire. Now I know there are so many other companies today. Doesn't mean that IBM is not an empire. IBM will always remain as an empire, but there are other companies who became big. But those companies that we look at today and we know today, they did not exist in those days. So at that time, IBM was the company. So I was lucky. After graduation, I joined IBM, and I worked very hard. I took my job very seriously, and still I take my job very seriously, by the way. And I was working late hours, very hard, learning, and IBM invested very heavily in me. Let's put it that way. So that was something very appreciated, and I'm until today very grateful to IBM and to everybody in IBM to give me that opportunity. They even took me to their boarding college in the UK, and that was, I'll tell you a little bit about it in a few seconds, if you allow me. The boarding college of IBM is, everybody in the military and in the government as well as in the royal families around the world. They know a very famous military college in the UK around the world, which is Sandhurst School or College, which is normally for the royal families and the military elite uh, people. They send their kids to Sandhurst in the UK to become to network, of course, with the elite from all over the world and to learn the discipline more than the military and the knowledge, the education itself. They learn the discipline in the military sector and in that area of the business. I always say the IBM boarding college in the UK was the Sandhurst of the business. So it was the elite school for the elite of everybody in IBM. At that time, by the way, we used to be around 450,000 people working for IBM around the world. So they select very few people every year. Very few means very few, you know. We were around 20, 25 people only. And they send them to this boarding college. And we spend around 2 years in there. It is like military for the business. So you learn the discipline, you learn the protocols you need, you learn how to negotiate, you learn how to close deals, you learn how to deal with people, you know, away from technology is just how to manage the business itself. I don't know if I should call it soft skills, but it's definitely much more than soft skills. That's why I call it is the Sandhurst of the business school. And again, I worked very hard in the college, and I graduated with first honor degree from the college. So that's something I'm very proud of as well. And after that, I was considered as a high flyer in IBM. So that was the entry, my entry to the technology world and to this digital economy that we are talking about today. And you liked it when I said digital economy because this is the background. So it's very a strong foundation is tough during those days. By the way, there was no internet, as I said, so you can imagine with everything I said to communicate. Still, we used to write memos, you know, whether to print the memo and send it or uh, write it by hand and send it across from office to office or from building to building. So, although it was one of the largest technology companies, but this is the beginning. And then I was lucky again as well, and I'm grateful as well that I had the opportunity to work for Microsoft, to work for Software AG in Germany, which was another huge and very respected company. And I worked with some of the spin-off from IBM, which was like Lexmark, uh, after they spun off and they created a consulting firm as well, and I was part of it. So it was very exciting time in my career. I traveled around the world with them. I had the opportunity to meet and work with the great people, to learn from them, to interact with them. Um, IBM sent me as well to a company which disappeared, if some of you remember. It was called Arthur Anderson in the US, and I learned a lot in Arthur Anderson in the US. And there was very specialized company in New England and Boston as well at that time, and a very a specialized type of consulting and advisory in the technology, which was called Bachman. And that was another great company, and they sent me there. This is, in a brief, the beginning of my journey, and this is what got me in love with whatever I do and whatever I did and whatever I'm still working on and whatever we are going to work on.
Okay, okay. Well, that's a very powerful and heartful journey, Mohammed, and I can hear how personal it is for you. You started in tech, as you said, it wasn't fun yet, more like serious work and long nights than today's early access digital world. Maybe that's how tech creates weak minds, but that's a whole other philosophical topic. I think that we can touch later on. And then you hit a major milestone with IBM, which is honestly like getting into one of the old empires of the technology, not just a company. I agree with you here. And only a very small group got selected, you were there for that kind of a training. So it sounds like you were in a very elite learning environment, almost like business boot camp or military level of discipline, right? Then moving to Microsoft after that feels like going from one tech giant to another tech giant, and you were clearly collecting world class experience in like rare stamps and passport. I can compare it like that. But what stands out is that you didn't just observe the industry, right? You lived inside it during its most formative years, traveling and learning from some of the smartest people in the world. And now, hearing all that, it makes sense why you care so much about Web3 and sovereignty. You have seen the system from the inside at its highest
I'll tell
level.
you, if you allow me, I'll tell you one thing more as well. When I was in the college, I mastered all the programming languages of computers at that time. So and I mastered them because I loved it. I loved what I was learning and what I was doing. And I reached a stage that in coding, nobody could compete with me or beat me in the coding in all the languages of the computers and all the systems, by the way. We used to have different systems with all the languages. But when I joined IBM, the only language that I didn't master and I didn't learn in school was assembly, the machine language they call it, which is the assembly language and the programming. So IBM gave me the opportunity to learn that language as well. So because my manager, I had very great manager, all of my managers were great, and I'm very grateful to them. But one of my managers was saying to me as a challenge, he said, if you don't know the machine language, then you don't know anything. So you go and learn it. I said, okay, you send me to a course. He said, no, 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 we don't send anybody to a course here because you came after all that. So you go and learn it yourself. So that gave me another challenge, another opportunity, which made me even more exciting or more excited at that time to learn more and to prove myself. And this is how we started. So that's why when you mention now blockchain or Web3 and all that, so all this coding and programming, this is in my blood, and this is something I enjoyed and I love. So the reason why I learned all the languages available because I loved coding. I loved it. In addition to designing motherboards and boards for computers and all that, but programming language as a software, I think was one of the areas that I really enjoyed, and I still enjoy, by the
Awesome, awesome. I was never into programming. I tried to learn even basics. I'm more into human languages, I would say, rather than computer or machine languages.
way.
But it's
Well, we tried. This is why when they took us to the boarding college, this is what they wanted to teach us: the skills of working with people.
Yeah, that this is wonderful though. I think that there is a famous idea in tech that less than 1% of programmers ever work close to hardware like that. So you really went to the roots of the system, and honestly your manager's line, if you don't know it you don't know anything, sounds tough, but it clearly pushed you into that new level of learning. And it's wonderful. You didn't stop when it got difficult. You actually got more excited, which is not how most people react to such moments, I would
Yeah,
say.
yeah, exactly. This is why when I said right from the beginning, I'm passionate about what I'm doing. Now, if you don't have the passion, if you don't love what you are doing, yes, it could be boring, especially those days. Even when I look at when I looked at my colleagues at that time, it is a boring job. It could be a boring job if you don't enjoy it. Imagine you are working on the machine, and not the machines were not fancy and beautiful like now. Now you have beautiful laptops, very thin, very fast, and even the operating system now, graphical interface, colorful with the pictures. In the days I'm talking about, the screen was green. There was no graphics. The machine was ugly, and the operating system and the processors were very slow. So that was part of the challenges as well. There was no network, by the way, and by the time we learned about networking and all that, sending an image across the network or sending a file across the network was a nightmare. It's not like now. Now you are sending and you are what you have in your phone, and what you are doing between your phone and your other contacts is unbelievable. So it was fun, and this is why when I look back now, I appreciate what we have today.
It's incredible progress, right? But also, I wanted to touch another aspect of our conversation here. Many executives enter Web3 through finance, but your interest spans infrastructure and governance and tech and identity, even. What specific problem were you hoping Web3 could solve that traditional technology simply could not? And do you believe that problem has been solved yet?
Um I will not say I entered Web3 from non-finance. Yes, I come from technology background, but finance is very close aspect of everybody's life, because if you are not in the finance as a professional, you are working with the finance or using the finance as in your personal, in your finance, in managing your own financials and your income. So I will say it is related and it is interrelated. But for me, coming from the technology background, of course, the development in the technology is important. And for somebody like me, I have always to be up to date in the technology. And one of the things I learned, by the way, in the old days, that you must make sure that you are up to date and you are accessing all the updates all the time. Otherwise, you will be out of date. And when you are out of date, you are out of out of business, basically. So I was watching before Web 3. I was watching Web 1, by the way, when it first came, and then Web 2 when it came, and then Web 3, which we are enjoying today. So I was following the technologies and following the progress in technologies. And what attracted me, to answer your question, what attracted me is what Web3 can do and could do in the finance industry. So this is the angle which I looked at and which I'm still looking at, because looking at the technology in Web3, what it can do in the financial industry and sector, and what it didn't manage to do so far, and hopefully this is something we will see it happening in the near future. This what kept me looking, keeping an eye on the technology itself, as well as keeping the other eye on the financial sector, how the financial sector are progressing, how it is perceiving the technology, how it's perceiving the new technologies and specific technologies like Web3, like blockchain. What is the impact and what could be the impact on the financial sector? And this is the area which I think is still not happening, in my own opinion. And I hope maybe we'll talk about it later on today. But I hope this is something that the financial sector and professionals in the financial sector will consider very seriously, and learning about what Web3 can do, what blockchain can do to enhance and advance the financial services and industries. I think I believe should be considered.
Mm-hmm. That's a very honest way to look at it. Thank you, Mohammed, and I appreciate the focus on what is still not solved yet. You are right that finance and tech are basically glued together now, even though they often don't move at the same speed. Though a lot of people came into Web3 thinking it would fully reshape finance, but even today, global banking still moves over $50 trillion a year in a very traditional systems. So when you say it hasn't fully delivered yet, I think that that actually matches with what many serious observers also feel. The promise is still kind of ahead of the reality. Though, how do you actually think the idea of Web3, the blockchain itself, what it's supposed to solve in finance? Maybe the transparency itself, maybe the privacy, maybe identity solutions.
What I believe, it's not what I think, and if you allow me, I'll share my honest opinion. What I believe, Web3 and blockchain can transform not only the finance industry, but they can transform any industry, any other industry. And I'll touch base on another important step which was taken by one of the governments in the Gulf here in the GCC 10 years ago. Uh, Blockchain and Web3 can transform the entire financial sector. I'll take you back to the financial crisis when it happened 10 years ago or 20 years ago, sorry. In 2007, 2008, when the financial crisis hit the world, all the policymakers came afterwards and they said, okay, we admit directly or indirectly that uh, there was some shortfall in the financial uh, sector or in the financial regulations or legislations, and that's what led to the financial crisis. Now we are talking, and what we are discussing today, after 20 years of that, and we are talking about technologies which have been there for what, 15, 16 years now. We are talking about the blockchain, and Web3 is not yesterday, by the way. Maybe some of the audience, when they hear you asking me and when they hear my opinion about it, they think this is something which is created yesterday. No, the blockchain and the Web3, they have been around for long, for very long, for something to be around for more than 15 years as a technology. And today, uh, um, you are asking me about the implementation and the impact of these technologies on the financial sectors. And my answer maybe will be shocking that the financial sector is in one side and the technology is on the other side, completely on the other side. And what I mean by that, I can look at all the financial sector, all the financial institutions today in the region and beyond the region, by the way. And the traditional and conventional financial sector and financial institutions, I'm not aware of any of them which is using or implementing or even thinking of implementing a blockchain or Web3. We have the fintechs who have been working very hard trying to implement the blockchain and Web3. And I will say, even surprisingly, even most of the fintechs, by the way, which I'm expecting when we say fintech, we expect the fintech to be up to date, should be very high tech, should be very advanced, right? But surprisingly, I will shock you again as well, and I will say most of the fintechs today, they are out of date for whatever reason. I don't know, but you go and try it. Don't don't believe whatever they say on paper or on in marketing slogans, but you go and try their services, you will be shocked. And this is something which really needs to be looked at. Now, I can look at it as an opportunity. I can say, yes, this is an opportunity for somebody like us and somebody like me to work on it and to make some changes and maybe make some unicorn maybe in that sector, which will be global. And I'm working on that, by the way. If you want, I can tell you about it later on. But I will say the financial sector is not utilizing any of the technologies that's available in the Web3 and in the blockchain, and they can do much better. That will definitely enhance the services, enhance the security, enhance the efficiency of their services, and even enhance everything else they do and they need to do by regulator, which is or the includes the KYC, includes the AML, includes all their obligations and requirements.
Mm-hmm. I lost my connection for a few seconds, but overall, to be honest, agree with you in many ways, especially regarding traditional finance. I can also be an optimist and look at it as an opportunity, but as a rationalist and realist, I'm extremely sad that most of the chairmen and C-level of the big corporations, they just don't care. So maybe there should be another generation that should take over the initiative. But most of the chairmen, they just don't want to give the responsibility to the younger generation as well. But maybe it's not in the generation itself. Maybe it's in the mindset. It's a huge philosophical as well topic that I would love to dive deep into. But I hear your skepticism as well about traditional finance slogans. I was talking to Morgan Stanley. I was talking to Goldman Sachs. I was talking to HSBC. In reality, only a small part of big institutions actually experimenting deeply with new tech. Maybe less than 10% in many cases, maybe even less than 5% in many cases. Though I would love to highlight that your mindset stands out, especially you're not just watching the gap between TradFi and tech, but you're trying to turn that gap into the opportunity. And I admire that. Uh, you saved my day with this mindset. I think that at a lot of things I also can look at as opportunities. And honestly, that don't believe the slogans and tried attitude in Web3 is very Web3 at its core, I think. Build first, talk later. And it sounds like for you, there's still an open field. You're not just observing it, you're looking for where real value can actually be created.
I think this is good, but if you allow me, I will add more on that. Um uh, Maybe the C level in the banks or most of the banks and financial institutions uh, uh, are not giving this enough attention, or maybe they are. I don't know. But in all cases, I think they need to consider. And I'll tell you two things in this space. I was glad to see a direction from a governor of one of the central banks in the region here in the GCC, uh, almost 10 years ago, if not more. He was trying, and he issued a number of direction to all the banks uh, to uh, to innovate. He was encouraging them to innovate, to try to implement the latest technology, encouraging them to look at the blockchain and what it has to do and what it can do. And I think that was very good initiative from a governor of a central bank. to speak to all the banks and encourage them to innovate. This is one. Number two, uh, one of the I think one of the reasons that normally when you go and apply for a job in a bank, they don't expect you to come from technology background. They look at your banking and financial background and experience, unless you are going to work for the IT department, of course, which is considered as a support center, or at least it was considered as a cost center for very recently, by the way. So at least now we are doing better now. It's not the cost center, because in the past it was looked at as a cost center, which was depressing. And what I mean by depressing, because the guys in the IT, whenever they try to innovate or try to propose something to the management is always or used to look at it as a cost, okay, how much is this is costing us? And most of the cases, the answer is no. They would rather invest on fancy furniture. They would rather invest on, accessories and maybe giveaways and marketing, but they will not invest in technology. I think the perception is changing. At least I hope that is the case. And this is the first step to see the changes and the improvement in the financial and in the banking sector. Um, there was another important direction from one of the leaders in GCC as well, and that's again 10 years ago. And the direction was to all the government entities in the country to consider blockchain in particular, and to consider moving and implementing the services on the blockchain as much as possible. And I was lucky that I was part of that project initially, and we were working on it very seriously and very actively. And I don't know, where do they stand now? But I hope they are doing well, and I hope to see all the government services are on a blockchain, because that will definitely uh, provide much more security, much more convenience, as well as uh, I think it as a ledger. If we look at the blockchain as a ledger, whether it's healthcare or education or certificates, not only financial sector, but even certificates, for example, of universities or schools. If you put it on a blockchain, you have it on a ledger, then the entire government have access to it in a secure manner and in a good way. We have smart contracts. Everything is authenticated. Everything is numbered and addressed and indexed on the blockchain, so the entire government will have easy access to authenticate or check the certificates or education or degree of everybody who came from abroad, for example, after getting their certificates authenticated. So there are so many things we can do. Uh, Payments, this is the simple example for the financial sector. If you implement Web3 and blockchain, to make it very short, you will shorten the speed and the time it takes to make the payment and receive the payment for you as an institution, as well as for the customers, as well as the cost of the transaction will become a fractional of the cost today. So this is a simple advantage to using the blockchain and Web3 in the financial sector, which I don't know why nobody is even considering it.
Mm, maybe now people will consider, but to be honest, I think that what really impressive with your observation about the GCC region, right? Because early government direction can make a big difference in technology adoption itself. And yes, around 10 years ago, several GCC initiatives around digital transformation and blockchain were already ahead of global average, even when many markets were still just talking about it. And maybe we should take a look back, connect with your fellow ex-colleagues and see what is going on there. But I think that such signals matter a lot. That's on that thought, I have another question, especially about your corporation and GCC region as well. When you look at Al Fardan Corporation today, what do you believe is the biggest challenge facing large legacy businesses in GCC? Maybe technological disruption, maybe talent, maybe changing customer expectations, or something else entirely? Because there were already big and good and healthy initiatives regarding tech disruption in GCC even 10 years ago. But what are the challenges still?
Uh, I think this is one of the best questions anybody can ask, and thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to address this point. I will say the biggest challenge for us and for anybody, I think everybody is on the same boat, is the actual challenge is, I will say, human capital. And what I mean by human capital, because earlier you mentioned that, you know, talking about the financial institutions, they should hire youngsters and more tech, ready generations to lead the banks and all that. So this is, you are talking about the human capital, right? So the biggest challenge for everybody, including us, is the human capital. Number one, uh, unless and until you have the right human capital with the right knowledge and expertise, you will never be able to do all the transformation and all the innovation that we are talking about or we are dreaming of, maybe, right? This is number one. Number two, I will go broader than this, and I will say, when you look at the large enterprises and the large corporations in the region here in particular, you will find, I will say politely, legacy. You know, the whole organization and the whole business is a big legacy, and the legacy has been moving from generations to generations. Now, you talk today, and we are talking today about innovation, about technology, and about all these things. Now, we need to look at the infrastructure. Now, is the infrastructure today that we have and others having, is it enabling them to upgrade and to move forward? And what is the cost if they decide and if they agree to do that? This is the reality which everybody must look at it. Let's look at, for example, if I am an airline today, and I'll take one part of the airline as an enterprise. If I take it, the MRO, which is the aircraft maintenance department, which lives heavily on technology, by the way, because you have inventory, you have spare parts, you have regular maintenance, you have scheduled maintenance, and this is critical. This is why I'm picking up this example away from the financial. If we look at that and link it to the importance of the safety and, and the security of everybody traveling, not only the aircraft or the airline. The aircraft is traveling all the time, right? And unless and until is well maintained, then the safety for everybody, for all the passengers, is at risk, right? So you cannot afford that. Now, if we have an application and the infrastructure, if we are running a legacy application today, right? And it's far away from blockchain, far away from all these modern technologies that everybody is talking about today. Uh, and if the management decide that they want to update or modernize or have the latest technology today, even if they decide, even if they have the budget, even if they want to go for it yesterday, not today, it's not easy because you have the legacy behind you and you have the applications with all the data, with all the integrations. It is a nightmare to move it to another platform or to change it to another platform. And banking is not any different, by the way. Government is the same. Family businesses are the same, by the way. So this is the actual challenge, and this is the reality. Um, so sometimes starting from zero is much easier when it comes to adapting the new technologies. Maybe starting from scratch is much easier than taking the old legacy and trying to deal with it.
Yes.
And legacy, by the way, I mentioned systems, but with systems, you have people running the systems, right? And their knowledge, their expertise is linked to the legacy system. So when you move to a new system, when you move to blockchain, when you move to Web3, for example, maybe their knowledge, their expertise will no longer be applicable, right? So what to do with that? This is why I said the human capital is one of the crucial areas and how to manage it, how to go about it. I'm not saying, I don't want anybody to get me wrong. I'm not saying that you need to get rid of everybody, no. But what I'm saying that the human capital are the crucial part of the whole thing. So you need to take care of it. You need to make sure that they are up to date all the time. The training is part of one of the basic functions and responsibilities of the human resources and HR of any department of any company or any organization. Their responsibility is to make sure that all their employees are up to date and they have career plan and they have a clear career path, and this is crucial. And unless, especially now with the rise in the technologies, we didn't talk about AI, for example, but it's everywhere and every day in the news. Everybody is talking about it. You know, unless and until you have the human capital up to date and taken care of, uh, that would be that's going to lead to a crisis in a
Mm-hmm.
day or another.
Thank you for a grounded answer, Mohammed. And I think that you're pointing to something that many people in boardrooms quietly agree with, but don't always say out loud. Human capital, I think, really is a backbone, because even the best technology does not transform anything if people inside the system are not ready to use it. And
Absolutely.
studies on big transformations often show that around 70% of digital transformation projects fail, and most of the time it is not tech, but it is the people side. And I
People.
also like your point about legacy moving from generation to generation, because especially in GCC, family businesses and institutions carry both history and responsibility at the same time. And infrastructure is not just serves or like it's not just servers or systems, it's also whether teams can actually evolve without being slowed down by cost or complexity, or the cost of losing some of the generational legacy infrastructure built in. And what you're describing makes and banking and government and family businesses feel very similar in one key way. They all depend on trust and people before anything else. So, though, if you had to prioritize one, do you think the bigger bottleneck today is upgrading the talent itself or redesigning the systems so talent can actually perform better?
Uh, hmm. That's a heck of question, you know. Um, I will say, if you want me to choose one only, right? If to choose one is the human capital, because the human capital are the driver of the change. They are the thinkers behind the change required. Uh, They are uh, they are the human which can look and assess what needs to be changed and decide change to what. And then the human capital again are the ones which will be behind the implementation of the change and of the new systems that you are talking about. I know everybody spoke and everybody is speaking all the time about AI and the threat of AI on jobs and on human capital, but I don't see it this way. You know, it's addressed completely wrong. You know, and I have said this at least for the last 20 years, by the way. Not now. Everybody is talking about this blockchain Web3, as we said. Blockchain and Web3, they have been around for more than 15 years, and maybe that's a surprise for everybody. And even AI has been there for even longer than blockchain, by the way, and Web3. So for the last 20 years, I have been saying some jobs must change. You know, it's not that changing people, but people in that profession or in those professions must get updated, must be trained, and the function is changing. You know, and this is the right statement, and this is the right thing to say. Let's pick up, for example, the accounting job. The accounting job is very important job for everybody, for every single organization. But because of technology, for the last 20 years, I have been saying, and I continue saying, that we need to train all the accountants and all the finance people, including the bankers as well, as we are talking about finance. We need to train them on the latest technologies all the time, and that includes AI. And then they will not lose their jobs, but they will be able to do their jobs in more efficient way, in more productive way, and in more technological way, if I may say, because they will be implementing the technology to serve them, to do their job. So if they are doing, for example, one task a minute using the AI, using the blockchain, using Web3, as we said, they will be able to transfer money faster. They will be able to receive money faster. They will be able to do the KYC faster. They will be able to trace the AML faster, right? Not only that, now everybody, when we talk about blockchain, for example, everybody immediately remembers the cryptocurrencies, which we didn't talk about, for example blockchain and cryptocurrencies, they are interconnected, and they will always be interconnected. Um, that takes us to one of the areas which are very important, and without technology, nobody will be ever able to do it, which is doing AML and KYC on the crypto transactions, for example, on the crypto wallets. Now, if we are talking about VAT, for example, and if we want to look at VAT on the trade in the cryptocurrency, like today, cryptocurrency in the trade is like any other trade. You can consider it as commodity, you can consider it as anything. So the question is, why are we applying VAT on the other commodities in the trade, and we are not applying it on the crypto in trade, right? People are making money here and making business here, and people are making business there. So if we are going to implement VAT on crypto trading, for example, we will need to have the technology on the blockchain and on the Web3 to be able to do the crypto tax keeping, for example, or bookkeeping of the tax of the crypto transactions. If we are going to do AML on the crypto transactions, we will need to have blockchain, and we'll need to have the latest advanced Web3 technologies. So this is what I mean. Technology today. This takes us to the first question and the earlier question when we were debating the use of the technologies in the banking and in the finance. Now, the technology is changing the industry. Now, the question is, are we are we as people, are as a human capital in the industry, are we up to date in the technology? Are the institutions, are the human resources in these institutions are taking care of making sure all their human capital are up to date with the technology, with all the changes, with all the tools available today to help them to do their jobs better? So that will answer the question which we were debating: will the technology replace people or cut some jobs? It will cut some jobs if they are not up to date. Yes, it will cut some people if they are not up to date, but it will create a new jobs. Let's put it that way. It will create a new opportunities. So this is our challenge, and this is everybody's challenge. And that's why when you ask me what is the most difficult challenge, I said human capital, not anything else, because that is the center of innovation. That is the center of adoption. That's the center of transformation, and that is the center of productivity at the end of the day.
Love it. That's a very sharp to frame it, and I love the question that you're asked. Are we as people, as human capital in the industry, because tech is changing the industry already, and I think that it is more honest than pretending everyone is already ready, because I think we're not. Most of the people are not, and
No,
it also quietly shows
let, let,
that
let,
the
let,
real gap.
let me tell you my opinion about that. Nobody is ever ready when it comes to technology. Even the most expert in technology, which are sitting on the computer coding every minute, or doing whatever doing in the technology as part of their job, unless and until they are updating themselves all the time, they will never be ready.
So it was a tricky question then. But I guess the intention in terms of asking the question, if we as a human capital ready, is just to inspire people more to be up to date. Am I right?
We must inspire them, we must encourage them, and we must incentivize them. This is the carrot which you need to give everybody to make sure everybody is up to date, and everybody. Let's look at it this way. I look at it as an investment in the human capital. When we are encouraging them, when we are incentivizing them, when we are um, uh, you know, training them, or making sure that they are up to date, we are investing in them. But we are investing in their future, as well as we are investing in the future of the organization and the future of the business, or the future of the entity. Because unless and until they are up to date, they are not as productive as you expect. And when they are productive, they will be more beneficiary for you as an organization or as a business. They will be better for the organization. They will be more productive. The result will be much better. And more importantly, from the human part of view, they will be happy at work. We spend very long hours at work. Everybody is spending very long hours at work, whether we notice or we don't notice. So we must make sure that they are happy. They are happy at work. This is an important part of everybody's life, and everybody's career, and everybody's future. So we must make sure that they are happy. When they are happy, they are more productive. When they are happy and productive, the result will be better and will continue increasing. and the customers will be happier, because if your staff are happy, they will your customers will be happy. You will have more customers, and you will have more results and better results. So at the end of the day, when we say human capital are the core of everything we are talking about, they are the center of everything we are talking about, and they must be taken care of.
Yes, 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 triple yes to your thought, because I think that training people is not a cost. It is a really long-term asset, and when people are inspired and not just instructed, they usually adapt faster and perform better, especially in tech-driven environments. And it sounds like for you the real return on investment is not only in systems or platforms, but in how far people can grow with them. And yeah, on that note, I think it's going to be the end of our today's interview. What a thoughtful and grounded conversation we've had today. I want to sincerely thank you, Mohammed. It was a pleasure. I am inspired. I would love to have more conversations with you today, because not only today, but in the future, because I think there are more stories to tell, more topics to cover. We haven't covered even 50% of what I wanted to, but yes, just we heard clearly that technology alone is never the full story, and that the human capital remains the real driver of this transformation. From Web3's unfinished promise to the realities of legacy systems, and the message was consistent. Progress depends on people as much as platforms. Thank you so much. I'm honored. So, if you have some final words to our listeners and viewers, feel free to speak up.
I would like to say thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. This is a great opportunity, in fact. And thank you very much for the great questions and great dialogue and very interesting discussion. And I hope our audience enjoyed our session. And I hope they agree, or maybe they disagree with some of the points. But that's uh, part of life, and I look forward to have the next discussion, to debate what we discussed today, and to agree and disagree more as well on some of the topics. And maybe at the meantime, you will hear some comments from our audience, or some feedback from the audience, that in the next session and in the next discussion, we will be more than happy to address them and to include them in our topics. And I would love to hear what everybody else think. We discussed your thoughts and my thoughts, but it's equally important what everybody else listening to us today and joining us today is thinking about what we discussed and the topics we addressed, and where are we today, where were we yesterday, and where we are heading. And thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Mohammed, and thank you all for being a part of this session at RWA Week. And we look forward to continuing these important conversations with you soon. Never easy topics, but they are the ones that will define how industries evolved over the next decade. Thank you again, and have a good rest of the day and rest of the week. Bye bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you.